Thank you for accepting the invitation. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Can you see me all right?
Yeah, I can now. So today we are bringing you a really special and unexpected guest, a cosmic serpent fellow, demonic and African practitioner of magic. Hello, it's really a pleasure to have you here. And can you introduce yourself shortly?
Yes, I go by the Cosmic Serpent online, and I have been a practitioner for several years. I work mostly the left-hand path, and I am very happy to be on this show. I've learned so much from you over the years. Your channel is great, and I was very happy to be able to speak with you because a lot of the information that I've gotten from you has kind of pushed my path forward. So, about me, I am a practitioner for most of my adult life. I work with certain aspects of my own creation. So I think that if we could put a stamp on it, it'd be chaos magic. But it's all black magic. It's all what we actually cultivate. So I work mostly in the pantheon of the Goetia. It's a very complete system. So I enjoy working that pantheon. And I found that my spiritual practice has helped me progress so much in my life and has changed so many things about how my life has gone, and there's just so much worth and beauty in this path. A lot of people say that we as black magicians or occultists of the darker nature have um, uh, bad hearts and bad positions in this existence, but it's not true. So yeah, that's me.
So, how you kind of started practicing, when it happened, how it happened? I am really interested to uh, see that because I kind of became interested in you from your TikTok videos. So they were interesting to me, and I was like, what about interviewing this lady? And then, I realized you were my subscriber for a long time, and I was pretty surprised. But how you started practicing actually?
So my practice started, I'll say like everyone else's, with the questions that you have when you're a teenager. Being raised in a Christian background kind of limits you to being able to explore anything other than what you're taught. So I grew up around people that were mainly devout Christian, but we also had that undercurrent in our family of those that, believed in things that were not necessarily, mainstream at the time. So I think growing and meeting people along my way, I got introduced to Aleister Crowley and Thelema very early. So, um, uh, ceremonial magic was something that I did research really early. And then as you grow, your practice just evolves. And I realized probably in my early 20s that this was something that I needed to devote myself to if I wanted to study and learn. It wasn't just about, practicing what was coming out of a book. It was about cultivating your own path and actually using your practice to increase your knowledge, increase your luck, increase your expand yourself in your life, not just by going by someone else's rules. So I started to research more, and then I found chaos magic, and I found mental magic, and I found African spirituality. I found back to the roots of hoodoo and back to the roots of just the things that were aspects of me that I didn't necessarily know about, but they just kind of flourished. So I just built upon that, and that's how I started.
So, can you talk about African spirituality, because you are the only African who practices African spirituality who I have opportunity and ability to interview and talk to. So I am really honestly interested in what you have to say, and I am not really informed on a subject. So talk about it as much as you wanna.
Okay, so I will talk about it from the perspective that I deal within that realm. I am not if I'm not initiated into any systems, and that's by choice. You know, I'm not an initiate into any system by choice because I don't necessarily feel like our limits. I feel like limits can be put on your thinking, your way of practice when you are initiated into certain systems that do kind of tiptoe into the dogmatic world. And the reason why we're here is to kind of erase that from our lives. So I'm not initiated for that reason. But what I will say is that my aspect of African spirituality, if you want to call it that, is that would be my roots in hoodoo. And hoodoo, in my experience, is a practice that was brought over to the U.S. By slaves, and it was cultivated here. We, as African people that were brought here, used the tools that we had. They developed systems into their daily lives that allowed them to express themselves spiritually and assist them. So I think that when you say African spirituality, to me, the closest thing to my heart is the practice that I know my ancestors, my direct ancestors from research, practice, and they are, I have Gullah Geechee descendants, descendant of that aspect. So I know that they did practice that. And it's something that just inherently happens. I think when you get to a certain age, if you have a connection to your ancestral line in any way, it just kind of blossoms. So you find yourself doing things and you wonder, where did this come from? And then you ask people in your family or you research and you're like, okay, so this is why I have this kind of instilled in me. So I think that that aspect of connection to ancestors, I do venerate my ancestors. So they do play a big part in my practice. I know a lot of people have their skewed views on what ancestral veneration means, but I think in my particular practice, it's just a connection to those aspects of them that are still in me. So when I do connect to them, it is allowing me to connect to all my mothers and all of my fathers that have come before me. So I think that aspect of African spirituality would be the one that's closest to my heart.
So, can you tell us, as people, which African spirits you venerate and how you approach them, how you work with them, if that's something you want to share?
Sure. Well, like I said, I have worked in the typical pantheons of the Orisha. I have worked with certain deities and spirits from that pantheon. I have a close connection to a spirit that you are probably very well familiar with, Oya.
No,
So,
no.
when you go through the initiation, you can be crowned under a certain spirit. But, like I said, because I'm not initiated, that is not something that I'm an expert on. But I do have a close connection to that spirit. So I would say that Oya, she is a spirit of storm. She is a spirit of chaos in your life to make things better. She is a warrior spirit. She is very, very closely connected to my heart. So Oya would be that spirit that I would actually say, if I worked within that pantheon, would be the closest. I'd be the closest to.
So, technically, that sounds a lot like Lilith, to be honest.
Very
So,
much so.
Lilith and that entity sound pretty similar to each other. So,
Very much.
can you tell us, since you work with both, what kind of difference between those two entities and how they feel to you?
Right. So working with Lilith has been a totally different experience from any other deity or energy that I've experienced in my practice. Um, to me, Lilith describes our deeper levels of consciousness. She is our she's basically the darker aspect of general consciousness to me. She came to me in dreams, and I had no idea what this energy was. I was early along in my path, it was all about the goddess. You know, people start in the goddess tradition, so they venerate Kali and they venerate all the dark goddesses as one. And that was something that, and it's still actually a lot of people push that today, which I think is a bit silly because they are all separate. You know, they're all different. So Lilith came to me early on, and I had no idea who or what it was. And as I started to grow and research, connecting to her has done a lot for me in my physical life. She will strengthen your astral senses. She will strengthen your intuition. She's given so many of us that follow her power, um, given so many of us self confidence, given so many of us strength and protection. Oya, on the other hand, is a spirit that I use when I need to rouse myself, when I need to be forceful in my expression, when I have something that I need to overcome. She definitely helps. Invoking Lilith is very different than having a conversation or an experience with Oya. In my opinion, Lilith to me is psychically connected to her children. She is an overarching theme of your whole entire practice. For that whole entire time you are invoking her, she's very strong, very powerful. She comes through like waves, and then she will speak to you, she will assist you, but she will give you dreams. It's not just one invocation. You invoke Lilith and you have experiences. With the Oya energy, it's more of a force. For me, it's more of a force that comes in and gives you some, I'll say, a battery charge, and then you're able to move on and accomplish what you were setting out to do.
So, how you personally call and approach Oya as a being?
So that is depending on, I think, what the situation is, because I have a separate altar set up for her. And the altar that's set up to her, I do keep candles lit, I keep incense for her, I give offerings. For that particular spirit, I do not give blood offering. Her offerings are more physical, they're more tangible things. Stormwater is one thing that that spirit really enjoys. So when I sit down to talk with that spirit, I have a magical chant that I have created. I have a sigil that I've created for her, and I know that this is not something that is typical, but as we all know, you have to cultivate your own path and work with these energies as they come to you. So I sit down, I use the sigil to connect with her that she provided for me, and I will give an offering, and I will go into meditation and wait. And when I go into meditation, I open myself up to that energy, and I will get a connection that is familiar to me as I've invoked her several times. With Lilith, it's totally different. With Lilith, it's totally different. I approach her energy when I feel her around me. She comes to me. So my invocations don't, I can't say on Wednesday night I'm going to have an invocation to Lilith. I might do a veneration to her or a ceremony or just do prayers to her or just give her offerings. But as far as invocation goes, I have to wait until that energy is, circulating me and I feel it. Lilith does take blood offering. So that's one thing that I do for her as well. So those are the differences.
Yeah. And what I kind of feel is that you kind of use both of those parts to complement each other. I had only one Loa or African spirit I had a relationship with. I mean, severe relationship, and that's Baron Samedi. And what I noticed is that African spirits operate much differently than demons or European spirits. They are like forces, they are like potentials, they are like powers. They are not
Right.
as conscious and as conscious or as limited as European spirits or demons. They are very, very different. But what I want to ask you is like, did you ever worked with Oshun? Maybe.
I have I've had my connection to Oshun early on, and I'll be completely transparent and honest with you. With that particular energy, I feel like, just like you're saying, they're elemental spirits, they're spirits of the earth, they're spirits that connect with us and bring forth powers within us that we already have. There's spirits that we can connect with that are forces, just like you're saying. And when it was time in my life for Oshun to be present, she was present, and I was able to venerate her in a very tangible way. I think cultivating femininity is something that is her bag, her thing. So as I was coming out of the shell of being kind of a closed off person and very introverted and not necessarily embracing my feminine power and embracing the aspect of femininity that is not just you know uh, what the norm is. Oshun was, I was able to connect with her. So yeah, early along when she was necessary, I have had connections with her. She's a very gentle energy. She is a very tangible energy. She's a very all-encompassing energy. So working with Oshun to me is a whole experience. So you're going to have taste for different foods, want to listen to different music, have different visions at night and dreams, and you're going to interact with people a different way. People are going to respond to you a different way. So she's very tangible. So working with that, and they always depict her with honey and beautiful flowers, and that's kind of how you will feel and behave when you're invoking her. So that's my experience with Oshun. Is beautiful.
So here is the thing, like this is my observation of you as a person. So I kind of read your aura a lot on your videos and now, and it's mostly really powerful red color, and you are really a person which is kind of conduit for Oshun energy. But for whatever reason, something happened to you, or somebody mistreated you, or you had a rough time in life. So you have a need to work with more aggressive energies like Lilith and yeah, in order to like have that defense, have that power, embrace that ability to defend yourself. And this is like an observation I kind of needed to say. Maybe I am wrong, but I needed to say it. But how long you worked with Oshun and how you kind of approached her?
Well, with Oshun, and first of all, thank you for that observation, because you're absolutely right. I come from a time early along in my life. I was very meek, very mild, very, very introverted, and very just kind of easygoing, to the point of it not benefiting me. And as I grew, more aspects of my darker divine feminine, as I call it, started to emerge, and that is where I found a lot more power. And it's not that the softer side of the feminine, working with like Oshun and Early Dantor, all those energies, with Pavarti, those energies, gentle, beautiful, feminine energies that are just as powerful, but on a different side of the coin. So I think that those aspects definitely developed as I became older. And you're absolutely right. So thank you for that observation. But working with Oshun, like I said, that was it was a brief period. It was probably about 3 years that I was with that energy. And when she was with me, she was with me. And I think that I got out of that. I got out of that what I needed. I haven't set up an altar to her or venerated her in a very long time. So it's been a while, but I definitely still, well, in my opinion, once you make a connection with the deity, if you relight that fire, if you touch them again, you still have that sense. Each time you do an invocation, you feel something different from each spirit. I do. So, if I go back to her, I will be able to know that, it's something that I haven't lost. That connection has not been lost. So yes.
So it's really good to talk to you. So did you like had some other African spirits you can talk about? Some other African practices?
Um, let's think. African practices. I think that, like I said, the closest to my heart are those that are to me, tangible meaning the physical practices of cleansing, blessing, working the energy in the home, keeping the energy together, very tangible things. And that hoodoo is a very tangible tradition. You know, you have, I got back to using physical herbs and making blends and making oils and boils and all of those things. And those are very, you know, inherent to my ancestral line. So I think that those practices of invocation in a connection where it is, I'll say, what's the word I'm looking for? Organic. I think that African tradition and the spirits of that pantheon, not necessarily just of the Loa, but anything that's connected to you and your lineage. When they come through, it's an organic connection. So I think that it's more of a way of dealing with all spirits that I encounter in a way that I can connect with them organically, that to me is inherently African or inherently indigenous to my line.
So I am kind of really enjoying this interview. Can you like, let's say I want to approach Ayo. Oya is the name of the spirit. So
Mhm.
so how should I approach her? What should I do? Right?
I think that and this is in my opinion, I think that working with Oya is you would be in a specific portion of your life where the aspects of her would line up with what you needed. We contact spirits because they have aspects of them that we want to infuse into ourselves. And we want to ask them for their assistance on certain levels. So Oya would be something that would be on your mind if you had some issues in your life, or if you just wanted to kind of pull more of that power, that storm energy out of you. So you can do research on her. There's lots of information online about chants to her. I like to invoke Oya when a storm is coming. If I feel a storm, I mean the physical energy of a storm, I've worked with several entities with that particular energy, but if you feel like a storm is coming, that's a great time to be able to just connect with her. You can sit down with a picture of her or her veve, and there's so many aspects of the tradition that can be used to invoke, but I simply use the veve. I do a meditation where I will draw the veve. So I go into trance state and I will draw the veve and meditate on the energy as I'm drawing the veve. So whatever comes out of that trance state is what I use as my scry. So I will set that up and scry into it and pull the energy out of it and just continue to scry until it forms into something that makes me feel more connected. And I sit in meditation and I ask and I listen, you know. So I think it's as simple with, like you said, they're all encompassing energies, and they're very tangible. They're earth energy. So you can just use a veve, something physical, like people use cornmeal to write the sigils out on the floor. People use bones to lay them out in a way that looks like that looks like, I say the sigil, but they call it the veve. So, you know, you can use that to connect with her. It's very simple.
Yeah. So it looks like some form of shamanic journey or something pretty interesting. Uh, but because you kind of talked about your African practices and you don't want to talk more about the spirits, can you tell us about earth blends you use and candles and things of that nature? For example, if you
Sure.
needed to cleanse a home, how you would do that?
That's great. So I actually use some of the practices that I've gotten over the years from older women that I've encountered, some of my mentors, and some of my older family members. If you need to cleanse a home, there's so many ways. It depends on what the issue is. But if you're just doing basic cleansing, you can use old school rituals like rum or alcohol on a broom. You would take a new broom if it's a new home, and you can saturate the broom with rum, and you can beat the walls. What you're basically doing is breaking up any stagnant energy that's there. It's it's psychodrama to an extent, but it's also physical cleansing of any stagnant energy that's there, and it's something that is again tangible. You can smell that, it feels like it's purifying, and you have that belief. So you saturate the broom, you can beat the walls, you can salt the corners. Just using regular table salt is my favorite way to do it. People always ask me, do you use black salt? Or I'm regular table salt is great. I always salt my corners and then sleep. And then the next day I will remove that salt. Placing bowls of water and fresh flowers is another practice that I always do. But as far as cleansing the home, it really is being able to sense subtle energies and knowing what it needs. So being able to say, if I come into this home and there's some residual energy here, or if it's something that it just doesn't resonate with me, do I need to use salt and beautiful things, or do I need to use something stronger? Copal is what I used in this house. When I moved in, I just smoked it out with a bunch of white copal, and it was just everywhere. And I felt like that really did a good, deep kind of energetic cleanse. So there's a couple ways, but those are my favorite ways. I also boil. I'll do boils in my home on Sundays. So I use a pot, and I use bay leaves and cinnamon and any things that are cleansing, and I will just let the essence boil through the house.
So this is pretty, you know, you said so many things. I think many people will find this useful. So, did you like ever summon spirit to physical materialization, and who was it, if you did?
Um, and it's funny that you say that, because when you said that you worked with Baron Samdi, Papa Legba, that is one of the spirits that had a physical manifestation for me. It was kind of early along in my practice, but when I was working with that energy, I would do this dance to arouse my physical energy. So I would just dance and rouse my physical energy and get into this ecstasy state and just go. And then as soon as I was at the height of my power, I'll sit down and do my invocation. And that spirit did appear to me. That spirit did appear to me. Very, very powerful, very strong. And
Baron.
it
Yeah,
was, hmm, say it
yeah.
again.
Baron Samedi, did he appear or Papa Legba? Who of the two?
Well, it's Papa Legba to me. To me, it was Papa Legba to me. So it's just interesting that like those energies are the ones that you were speaking about that you had connected with. But yeah, Papa Legba to me, very very powerful, and that was I'll say about 7 or 8 years ago. But yes, working with that spirit was incredible.
But like from my connection to the guy, what I um, so he kind of makes you capable of like walking all of the paths at once. Like you lose attachment to this world and you kind of see everything as the web of roads, like infinite amount of roads and kind of magic flowing through, going through, and he kind of teaches you to have that perspective. So
Hmm.
he's really king of the doorways. And to me, his energy was pretty healing and pretty guiding, and but also it can be tricky and dangerous. So, what's kind of your
Right.
experience with him?
I think that, yeah, my experience with him, you're absolutely right. It was intense healing, and I think that I was doing work with him and invoking him at a time that was something that I did need. So healing did come from that, but I at that time I was definitely on my path to not necessarily knowing what my next move was. I had just moved, I had just left a job. It was just something that was I was really on the path to who knows. And direction came from him as far as being able to connect to that spirit when you have a question about what you should do next. So it did come through healing, but it also came through very powerful. It there was aspects of that grandfather, old man energy that was there, but it wasn't necessarily as loving and as kind and gentle as I've heard people experience it. It was more forceful, and I think that's because of the place that I was in my life. It was more forceful and kind of wanting me to pay attention to it. So it was a pretty interesting experience, but yeah, very strong, forceful, like a army grandfather, not necessarily like the nice grandfather that buys you candy. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, it's interesting to notice that we have similar experience without ever before talking about it. But to
mhm.
me, like, I personally always resonated more with darker entities. But Papa Legba is one of the few balanced entities, both light and darkness, which
Mhm.
kind of resonated with me in a certain sense. However, as a European who is, as you can see, Mediterranean European from south of Europe, I never wanted to kind of explore voodoo too much because it's not related to me genetically. And what you think about people from other ethnicities trying to practice African spirituality? Like, what's your personal opinion on that?
Mm. Well, my personal opinion on that is I feel like any aspect of spirituality that resonates with you has something that's there for you. I don't necessarily think that anyone that has any reservation or anyone that has any deep-seated kind of not necessarily fear, but just reservation should explore what you're practicing before they go into it. Because just like anything, just like when I started working the infernal pantheon, like if I approached it with fear or if I approached it without doing my research, that wouldn't have been a good place for me. That wouldn't have been a good place for me to end up. So I know that the rhetoric of closed practices is something that a lot of people are. It's a new thing to me, like just hearing like, oh, this is closed, you can't do this. But I think that if there's an aspect of something that taps you or tickles your fancy, or if you want to explore, do your research, but just know that it's a very deep connection in certain ways that if you explore, if you don't feel like you should be doing it, then you shouldn't. You know, that's how I feel
I
about it.
mean,
I'm not
I had great. I kind of had great experience with that, to be honest, and it worked for me. But I personally, I don't know. Like, I always felt like voodoo is serious tradition, and you need to
right.
have somebody who will guide you on a path. Like, you cannot uh, mix shit on your own. Like, I did research for Samedi and for Criminal and for Papa Legba and Matt Kafu to a degree, and I worked with them according to the recommendation of experienced practitioners. But as soon as I stopped contacting those experienced practitioners, you know, they, I kind of didn't know what to do on my own. The
Hmm.
only spirit I know what to do on my own is Samendi himself and Criminal, his brother.
Hmm.
So to them I can come on my own, but to others, I I am confused always. So
Yeah, I what you said is very true, and it's not. And the thing about it is that I am one of those practitioners that I do not judge other people's practices. I don't judge what other people do. One, because I don't care. Two, because I feel like you have to be able to find your own path. And just like you said, contacting a practitioner that's experienced is a good thing. Voodoo is a whole different story. Voodoo and Ifa are a whole different story when it comes to being able to just jump into a spiritual practice, because it's not just something that you can pick up a book and read about and be able to connect to and practice, because in my opinion, 90% of it isn't written down. You know, it's an oral tradition. It's something that does need to be taught. I have not been initiated, and that's why I don't practice it. You know, so those aspects of what I have inside of me are what I use. But one day maybe. But yeah, it does need to be taught. I feel like that's one of the traditions that does need to be taught in order to be effective. You know, I know people that use it that claim to get great results, and they have done, you know, research on their own, and that's wonderful. But if you really want to encompass the entire aspect of it, you like you said, you need to talk to somebody that has the, you know, has the knowledge.
So yeah, but about Lilith, we definitely have a common topic to talk about.
Definitely, yes. I'll tell you this, and I didn't necessarily want to just like talk about, because I could just talk about your videos and the information, but I didn't want to talk about that. But I did want to say that if anybody is watching this and they have like, you feel like you're stuck, if you feel like you're stuck, if you feel like you haven't been able to access your psychic senses, if you feel like there's something blocking you, you have a technique of astral cleansing with tentacles, with these beautiful tentacle visualization with using Lilith's energy, and that has helped me immensely. I've incorporated that into my daily practice, and it really helps as far as psychic cleansing, just as a I'll say maintenance. And if anybody's watching this and they have some issues, that video that you did was great. So I definitely commend you for that. Your gnosis is very genuine, so that's why I really resonate with it.
Yeah, but kind of, what's something Lilith told you which you want to share with the audience?
Well, one thing that she told me that I've been kind of talking to my friends about, or just like, you know, just maybe discussing with myself, you know, just writing about, is I think that being limited is exactly the opposite of what her energy is expressed as. And what I mean by that is I see a lot of people that use Lilith to justify their own political stances. Like there's a lot of women that are feminists, and they're like, Lilith is our you know, our spearhead, and she's our poster child for separativeness. And that I don't believe is correct. I don't like the limitations that a lot of practitioners put on her. She does have her aspects of sexuality. She does have her aspects of protection, but she is not, in my opinion, and what I was told and what I got in my meditation, she's not a poster child for feminists. You know, she doesn't have a political agenda. Spirits don't have like a political agenda, you know? So that's one thing. Another thing is that working with Lilith, to me, one thing that have gotten deeply out of my meditation is that for women that are aging, for women that are going through changes in their lives, the aspects of her that you can invoke will help you ease yourself into that. I'm aging, you know, I'm coming on to my older years, and you know, being able to connect to the elder aspect of her to help me with my physical
Wait
sense
a
and the
minute,
physical changes.
wait a minute. You are telling me that you are coming onto the elder years of Lilith. You don't look that way.
No, of myself, of myself, of my elder years. So, you know, I'm just saying that the different aspects of her can be invoked, and can support women as they age, as they change, as their body changes, you know, those things. If you're pregnant, you should invoke Lilith. If you have a new baby, and you're struggling, you should invoke her. If you are having feminine problems, issues, not just mental but physical, if
So
you're
sorry.
going through some issues, you should definitely invoke her, because she is one that will empower you through those things. and let you see the beauty in them instead of just being able to be suffering.
Yeah. But the only recommendation I would remove from this list is if you are pregnant, because there is a controversial relationship between Lilith and pregnancy.
I
But
know, I know, I know, but that's so, you're right about that. That controversial relationship. You're right. Maybe you shouldn't invoke her while you're pregnant. I mean,
so,
I would
can I ask you
absolutely.
something? Like, was that in your hand? Are you drinking cola or something?
This is tea. This is passion fruit tea and cinnamon and all kinds of stuff, so I can be calm, so I can talk to you on this, because I don't do interviews or lives or anything like that. I did before, but I haven't done them in a very long time. So this is so I can be calm to talk to you.
So am I like so exciting, motherfucker, that you have to drink tea to talk to me? This is like
Yes,
the compliment I ever
yes,
got. So
yes, yes. I mean, it's just the fact that, like I said, I've learned so much from practitioners like you. You had Eldoria Crow on before, and I've learned so much from her, just watching her from the sidelines. Like, just learned so much from some of the practitioners that you've had on. And a lot of people don't, a lot of people haven't followed you for a long time, but you have hundreds, you tons of videos of information. So yeah, you're an exciting person. You are.
yeah. So thank you for everything. But since we are talking for almost an hour, can you like say some practical information for people to apply? You know?
Sure. One thing that I want to say, because if anybody's listening to this, the people that you see online that talk about their experiences, if you resonate with them, listen to them. If you don't have to. Every single person is not an authority. You can find your own path. You don't have to follow what's in a book all the time. You do need to research and study, and you do need to grow. But also, the most impressive thing should be your own gnosis. Whatever you are learning from your own manifestations and your own meditations should be the most impressive thing to you. So, practicality in that, invoking daily all the time helps you. There's so many people that have issues, physical issues, illness and stress, and they go through these things. Meditation is great, but invocation is wonderful, for to be able to support you through physical things as well. So that's it.
Yeah, so thank you for coming tonight. I really enjoyed this interview, and you kind of really shared an interesting perspective on many things. And I will definitely call you for another time when you have time, because
Thank
you're a busy motherfucker. So, yeah, yeah, talk to you some 2 or 3 months down the line. Yeah. Uh,
thank you so
it, it
much.
was a pleasure to interview you. Thank you for coming, and yeah, thank you for watching, guys.